because if I press that when we go live, it's kind of jarring for everyone. So I thought it was best to start recording now. So I'll just go through some stuff now. If Asim comes in, I'll explain, but I'm sure that he'll know. So 5 minutes to 12 now. What we'll do is once it gets to 12, I'll press start webinar.
Yeah.
And then I'll just wait for everyone to come in. Once we've got a few people coming in, it's maybe a couple of minutes past, I'll do a bit of an introduction to Bounce Back Week and then to this session specifically. I'll mention each of you and the rundown, and I'll ask everyone to put any comments, questions in the Q&A or the chat function. And then what we'll do is we'll just go from one person to the next. I'll come back in after you've done your talk and then introduce the next person. So we're going Sue, Joe, Asim, and then Jude. That's okay?
Yeah.
And then what we'll do after that is take any questions from the floor, and then I'll probably have a few questions of my own. If we don't have any more questions and it's not quite hour, we'll just stop it. We'll get some little bit of time back. And we're not, I'm not going to I'm not going to stretch it out and have you all here for if there's no more questions. Yeah, so everything's being recorded. As soon as I stop the meeting, that then gets sent to the cloud for us to then take and put some branding on it. And again, that'll go out on our blog and on our social.
Lovely. I just need to say I need to leave at 1:15 at the latest because I've got another meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Hi, Asim, you okay?
Hi.
I'm well, Georgina. Good morning, Joe. And Sue.
Good morning.
Morning, Asim.
Good morning. Wow, what an impressive group of people this morning.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the after party. The all expenses paid after party. Thank you, Georgia.
That's okay. Have you got any slides that you need to share?
I have.
Do you want to give it a test run?
Yeah, I will. There we go. Share. So you can see them. And I need to put them on full play mode. There, is that?
Perfect.
Wow, yeah.
Hope that works.
Perfect.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, hear you fine.
Is the sound okay?
Oh, that's
Very good.
Perfect.
Clearer now, yeah.
Oh dear. If I do the sound, then I lose all the hearing.
Okay.
Spot the mic is not a headphone. Okay.
Ah.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I won't. When I'm at home, I have a proper microphone, but here I just have this. But forget about that.
Fine.
Never
We can
mind.
hear you fine.
Okay, great.
Good. Where's everyone coming in from today?
Doncaster.
Doncaster.
Near Chesterfield.
I'm in
District.
London. I'm at Russell Square near Bloomsbury.
Oh, very posh.
Yeah, only for a couple of days. Back to
Yeah.
Nottingham tomorrow.
Nottingham.
You know, I've just said Chesterfield, and I'm not. I'm in Surrey. I'm in Tadworth. I'm in my stepson's office.
Oh, you
We're
do
down
that?
with family for a few days.
Now that is posh. That's real posh.
It feels a bit posh, Asim. I'm more comfortable, in Chesterfield and Sheffield, but it is lovely. So this is my stepson's office at the bottom of the garden, which is far posher than my office at home, but it's lovely.
Wow.
Lovely. Well, I'm just in Alwoodley, which is a bit grey right now.
It is in Doncaster as well. It's very grey.
It's raining most of the
Everywhere
morning.
But it's a Friday, and it's my last
Yes.
event for Bounce Back Week, so happy to.
I just had a look, Georgia. You've had quite a lot of events on this week. haven't you?
I've personally chaired them all as well.
Wow.
This is the 9th, so just happy to wrap it up now, I think. Yeah, it's kind of taken over quite a lot of the week. Right, I'm going to go live. If everyone can just go on mute if you're not speaking, and I'll do a bit of an introduction a couple of minutes past the hour. Okay, perfect. Here we go. Welcome everyone joining us for our 9th session for Wakefield Bounce Back Week. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes till people start coming through, and we'll do a bit of an introduction. Hi Sam, Peter, great to see again some of the same faces here who've been supporting us throughout the week. Really appreciate you coming back to this one. If anyone wants to say hello from the panel or any attendees, please use the chat function. Feel free to have your own conversations there, make your own connections, add your contact details, anything that you'd like to do, feel free to use that. We're here to connect, make new connections, make networking, so more than happy for everyone to add their contact details there. So it's a couple of minutes past, so I'm going to start the session now, and if anyone else wants to come in, they can do. So the final session in Wakefield Bounce Back Week, it's been a very, very busy week for us. The entire aim for Bounce Back Week was to celebrate, highlight, and just bring a bit of inspiration around the companies within Wakefield and its surrounding areas, how everyone's been working together, how we really want to celebrate the camaraderie, the collaboration, and just the support that everyone in the region has for each other within the businesses and personally within our personal networks, to really make sure that we have a great economic recovery in the area. It's been a terrible year for a lot of people, whether you've done well in business or not. Everyone has had to deal with a lot of things on a personal level as well, and that always comes through if you're a business owner with dealing with having to run a business at the same time. Things have been disproportionately difficult in the north, and particularly in some of the areas within Yorkshire. So the whole reason that we wanted to come together with Bounce Back Week was really to say, you know, we're still standing, we're still here, we're resolute, and we're here to help each other. This session specifically, it holds a special place in my heart. As a company at Holston Marketing, we always try to ensure that there is obviously always an element of equality and diversity as well. And it's something that I know that me and a lot of my members of staff are passionate about, is a business in general, but across the entire business terrain, particularly in Yorkshire. This was the last event that we put together, and I have to say my team members have done an absolutely amazing job at bringing together this absolutely stellar lineup of people that we have, talking about not just the normal things that you would think about in terms of diversity, but we've got a lot of stuff here to do with things like neurodiversity, women in business, making sure that you're ensuring people from different ethnicities, background, religions. The list absolutely goes on, and I really feel like we've outdone ourselves here to bring people together to talk about a lot of the different aspects of diversity that don't always get talked about. So without going a little bit too into everyone else's talks, I want to introduce Sue Murphy, Executive Coach and Specialist Neurodiversity Coach at Sue Murphy Coaching. We then have Jo Ward, who has an MBA, who's a business development consultant at Jo Ward Consultancy and Collective Change. We have Asim Ishaq, speaker, business coach, entrepreneur and inventor, an NED. We then have Ju Chan finishing us off with, who's a director at My Network for Women in Business. So What we'll do is we'll go through each of our speakers. They'll all do a talk, and if anyone has any comments, questions, please use the chat or the Q&A function, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end after all of the speakers are done. So I'm going to pass straight over to you, Sue, as our first speaker. Please give us an introduction to yourself, a little bit of background, what you do and what you're going to be presenting today.
Thank you, Georgia. And I am just going to set my timer as well. Because I am a neurodiverse, dyspraxic granny, woman entrepreneur, call me what you like. One of the things I struggle with is time management. So I know Georgia's going to keep hold of us, but I set myself a reminder as well. So I'm Sue, I'm a coach. I've been coaching full time for about 6 or 7 years now, and before that had a career in the public sector. But I'm here to talk about neurodiversity as part of the diversity and equality and inclusion agenda. And the first thing I want to say is that none of us here are in competition. If one part of the community are disadvantaged and held back, then everybody is. So, and neurodiversity, which is my bit, affects the whole community. I'm going to go to my slides, if that's all right, Georgia. So, folks, I'm going to share my screen. I'll make sure I've got the right set of slides. Yeah. And go to remembering what I was told a couple of minutes ago. Is it that one?
Yeah.
Slideshow, that's it. Yeah, there we go. And I want to talk about neurodiversity as a hidden competitive advantage, because it's something that so few people seem to know about, apart from the ones who are dealing with it every day. And like every aspect of diversity, if we pay attention to people's strengths in this area and put simple things in place to challenge the barriers, there is a real competitive advantage for organisations and businesses in using the skills of neurodiverse people in and around them. So, what is neurodiversity? It's a fairly recent term. It was coined by a brilliant Australian woman called Judy Singer, and it's an umbrella term that covers I call it a family of lifelong cognitive conditions which affect how individuals experience and make sense of the world. And it includes autism spectrum conditions. I try not to use the phrase autism spectrum disorders, but it includes autism, including Asperger's syndrome, ADHD, and I have spelt that out. I still don't like disorder, but it's the official term. Dyspraxia and DCD, which are a lot less well known than some of the other conditions. Dyslexia, Tourette's syndrome, and other tic disorders. And tics are involuntary movements, jerks, or sayings. I'm spelling that out because somebody in a presentation I did last week asked me what tic was an acronym for. It's not. It's so how many people are affected? Well, I don't know whether I can see. I should be able to see the chat box, but I just want those of you who are listening to think about whether you or someone you're close to is affected by or has one of those conditions. So autism or more, because they hang around in gangs. Autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette's. Can you think of someone close to you or yourself that's affected by that? And stick your hand up in the chat if you can. And Georgia, I wonder if you can see that and give me an idea of how many hands have gone up.
I can see the chat, and I can also see our panel here, and 3 of us have already put our hands up for sure. If anyone, I'm not sure if the participants are able to raise their hands. Oh no, they are. We've got 7. We've got 7 so far.
7. And how many? So there's the 5 of us. How many people are on the call altogether? I can see 11 participants at the top of my screen.
So I'd say, so that's 8.
So that's 8 out of how many?
Than yourself, Sue, I think.
Sorry?
I think that's 100% other than yourself.
There you go. And I'm dyspraxic, so my hand's up. So even though you may not know the word, and in business terms, you may think this is something that doesn't concern you, look at that. Every person in this room has experience of one or other of those conditions and the way that it plays out in people's lives. It's about 15 to 20% of the population in total. Something like 1% of the population are autistic. About 5% are dyspraxic, about the same for dyslexia. And overall, there's about 15 to 20% of the population. If there was something else in terms of ethnicity, gender, sexuality that affected that proportion of the population, it would be part of mainstream diversity and equality planning. A lot of entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs have neurodiverse conditions. I think particularly dyslexia and ADHD, because my God, the creativity that goes with those conditions. We think about Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Jay Blades, who's a particular hero of mine. He's a social entrepreneur. You'll know him from The Repair Shop if you watch it, but he's also dyslexic and does a lot of work and has done for years with young disaffected, they're not disaffected, they've been bloody excluded young men. So I'm not going into other people's territory, just to say I recognise it. This slide I have borrowed, and acknowledge it, from the Wellcome Sanger Institute, and I wanted to use this because it puts side by side the challenges and the strengths that come with neurodiversity, and it's the strengths I want us to think about in terms of business advantage. So on the right hand side, first of all, you can see that these all overlap, and if this was my slide and I have the skills, I'd move the autism spectrum up to overlap with the others. The things that can be difficult, people know about dyslexia, are difficulties with literacy. That may not show up until somebody's at university. When we say difficulties with literacy, it doesn't mean people can't learn to read and write, but the written form of communication can be difficult. I hope you can see on the right hand side on ADHD. I can't, because I've got the team in my view. I'm just going to see if I can move you so I can see. ADHD, difficulties with prioritization, low threshold of frustration, procrastination, risk taking. But the upside, and this is why so many entrepreneurs are ADHD, quick-witted, energetic, hyper-focused, empathetic, great at reading a room. Most of us with neurodiverse conditions are great at reading a room and picking up things other people wouldn't. So the difficulties are real. They're an absolute pain in the backside if you have a neurodiverse condition, unless straightforward measures are put in place, and some of them are so easy. We bring with us a lot of strengths. So people know about autism, attention to detail, real expertise in an area of interest, alternative approaches to problem solving. I don't know whether any of you have heard of Temple Grandin, but if not, she revolutionized approaches to livestock welfare in the US. Very strong on process. If you want someone to deal with something really accurately and take something apart forensically, someone on the spectrum is going to be a good choice. The rest of us, non-linear thinking, innovation, different ways of looking at things. I could go on, and I'm going to not, because if I start, I may not finish. And I wanted to talk a bit about, so I'm saying neurodiverse people have all these talents. You may well be missing a trick in your own organisation, either if you're not recognising your own neurodiverse needs, or those of people you've already got, or being a bit afraid to consider recruiting someone that you know has ADHD or is on the autism spectrum or has another or has dyslexia, because you don't know how that's going to play out and you don't know what questions to ask. I wanted to flag up the Access to Work scheme, because the corporate environment, whether it's large-scale public sector organisations or businesses, they know about this, they make good use of it, and they get a lot of support for staff from it. It's a government-funded scheme that supports employees with disabilities, including invisible disabilities like neurodiverse conditions, with costs of specialist equipment or adaptations, and most of it is free. And just so that, because people will often ask, well, does the fact that I'm dyslexic mean I've got a disability? No, you're a really able person, but the way society is set up may disable you. And that's why I've put up this definition. So in access to work terms under the Equality Act 2010, that's my time up, if you have, this is the wording, the legal wording, a physical or mental impairment which has a substantial long-term adverse effect on your ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities, you're considered disabled in terms of access to work. And this includes neurominorities like me, because the challenges have such an impact on us that they do affect us significantly day to day. And it's also worth noting it applies to people with other invisible disabilities. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking really fast. So my challenge to you, my call to action, if you like, is, do you know how many of your own team are neurodiverse? Do you know what their strengths are? Do you know what their challenges are? And if you want to find out more, get in touch with me, or there is loads of resources around on this stuff. I've put my details up there. The Chartered Institute of Personnel Development do a fabulous guide to neurodiversity at work. I've put the link there. Do It Solutions are the go-to people if you want to check out for yourself or someone else whether there might be an element of neurodiversity. Loads of information and a brilliant screening tool on their site, and also a company I do a lot of work with based in York, Chris Puddle, do a guide to neurodiversity and COVID, and thinking about the issues that might be coming up for people either working from home or trying to return to the office. And finally, the link for access to work. I'm sorry, Georgia, that's a real gallop through, but hopefully I'm only just over the time, and I'll hand back to you.
No, that's completely fine. So don't worry about it. And a really, really great scene setter for us all to have a little bit of a think about maybe the people who are in our teams. And I really like the fact that you've highlighted the strengths and you've not called the other side weaknesses. It's challenges, and we all have challenges, no matter who we are. You don't have to have fallen into any of these groups that have been created. Like we all have challenges, so let's change that sort of mindset there to say, and let's think a lot about those strengths as well, because they rarely get the airtime, do they? And I really appreciate that you've highlighted those. When we've all said that we know someone, there's definitely people that I know that I thought, well, let's consider those competitive advantages, even you've called them, and let's try and frame them that way to all employers, to be like, these are competitive advantages if you have these people within your team. I know specifically software developers, for example, if you have a lot of people who, a lot of autistic people get into software development, because you need to have that focus and you need to have that attention to detail as well, and that creative side. So I'm not going to try and encroach on, the amazing insights that you've highlighted here, and also, just calling it those invisible disorders, diseases, whatever people are calling them, and they do often come unnoticed a lot of the time, and it's great for us to highlight those today. So I really appreciate that, Sue. We're going to go on to you, Jo, if that's okay. If you want to give us an introduction to yourself and who you are and what you're going to share with us today.
Thanks, Georgia, and thanks for that, Sue, as well. Every time I hear you speak about it, it just it kind of blows my mind in a way, because, like you say, it's so common out there. There's so many people that are neurodiverse, yet we know so little about it. So yeah, it was great to hear that again. So my name is Jo Ward. I've been around the block over the years. I've mainly worked in charities and social enterprises, and I'm currently working. I'm employed as an enterprise coach under the Doing Good Business programme, which is national, and I work throughout South Yorkshire, engaging people that the term is furthest away from the labour market, and to support them to move forward in life, whether that be through employment or setting up their own business. So I meet lots of different people, and engagement can be difficult for lots of reasons, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. And I also, I'm also a freelancer, and I support organisations, mainly charities, some larger charities, and I support female social entrepreneurs to set up their own, set up and grow their own social enterprises, and some of those are in developing countries facing their own issues. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about my experiences, but also the angle I've decided to take on my talk today is an encouragement really of how businesses can embrace diversity and inclusion and be more equitable in the way they do things, because we do still have a long way to go, I believe. So I shall share my slides. Can everybody see that okay? Great, thank you. So I've just told you a little bit about me, and I'm just going to run through today what is diversity, equity and inclusion. What there are terms that we're hearing a lot more about, but what do they actually mean? I'll give some statistics for context, some steps that businesses can take which are practical and don't cost the earth, and then what the business benefits are of harnessing diversity, equity, inclusion in their organisations. So I'll just give you a little bit of a rundown about me. I work with a lot of people that have got lots of different barriers, and as Sue has just outlined, a lot of those are as a result of neurodiversity, either unrecognised and people just don't know what the strengths are. So it's interesting that this is coming to the fore now, because this is, of all the clients that I work with, a lot of the people are facing multiple barriers to moving forward in life because of something that has never been diagnosed or recognised or worked with. So I'll just talk about what diversity means. There's lots of different definitions out there, but I've chose these because I think they're the most straightforward. Being a Yorkshire woman, I like to be straightforward. So diversity, it's about taking into account the differences between people, recognising them and celebrating them, rather than being frightened of people having differences or being different to us and what we're used to. Equality ensures that everybody has equal opportunity, and they're not discriminated against or treated differently just because of their characteristics. And then finally, inclusion ensures that everybody has a voice and a means to participate, which may involve making some reasonable adjustments to the workplace in order to engage people and really play to their strengths and have people playing and have an equal place at the table. So one of the phrases, and I haven't been able to say who I heard this from. I think I read it on social media and it stuck with me, but it's a phrase that I think really encapsulates diversity and inclusion for me particularly. So diversity is inviting people to the party, and inclusion is asking them to dance. And I think that's a really simple way of putting it, because I think over the years we've had lots of organisations have policies and procedures with regard to equal opportunities and growing trend towards diversity policies as well. But are we actually doing this? Is it just something on a piece of paper that we're in a tick box exercise? Are we actually asking people to dance? That's the question, isn't it? And I think that's the question that's being asked more and more recently. So just to give some statistics for context, I have chosen, of all of it, it's a huge subject, isn't it? I know, but I chose women in leadership because I think this is the place where we have moved forward quite a lot. Women are taking on more leadership roles, but these statistics highlight that we're still not there. So in terms of other forms of diversity, people from Black ethnic minority backgrounds, neurodiverse backgrounds, I haven't got those statistics, but I can bet that they're much lower than these. So we've got Africa there leading the way, and everybody, there isn't much between them, is there? It's around the average is around 30% of percentage of women in senior management roles. So we could ask quite a few questions about why this is. And I'm sure we've all got our own ideas about that as well. But some of this will be due to company culture and how we embrace diversity in our organisations. I will be sharing these slides as well in case anybody wants to have these statistics or anything. So what steps can businesses take? The front runner there is in terms of engaging people in organisations, engaging a diverse workforce is obviously human resource policy and practice. As an employment and enterprise coach, I see quite often now, more often than not, is that people are sent to job adverts, are sent to Indeed or Reed, which are the two bigger players with regard to recruitment. And people say, oh, just log on to their websites and just load a CV and just load a cover letter, and it's as easy as that. And they're just left to it. So people that can do that sort of thing, that have that ability, are obviously way ahead and are getting these jobs. Whereas people that might struggle with that for whatever reason, it might just be confidence or a fear of something, they're lagging behind on this hugely. So, and it is instead of things becoming more personable, and we are becoming more digital, like we know this, and so people are being sent to just go on a computer and just do this. So I think organisations could take other steps, which just instead of just recruiting via these channels. And as a former social entrepreneur and somebody that's been around charities for a long time, I do know that they can lead the way, and they don't just put something out on a job search site like the well-known ones. They will actually, the majority that I've come across will go out and actually do some outreach and go and put these advertisements out in areas where people wouldn't normally go. So things like community centres, maybe hairdressers, there's lots of different ways of doing it, social media and all these different things. So it's about taking a different approach to recruitment and just thinking about putting that advert out as widely as possible. And then there's the other things around induction and team building and all those things that are internal. Re-looking at how things are designed. Are they inclusive? Do they get the best of people? Do they celebrate people's strengths? Do they encourage people to be open about themselves and their background and their experiences and that whole diverse range of things that we've all got and we bring to the table? And this leads to leadership. Leadership is the key to this. How diverse is the board and the leadership team? This is asked a lot in grant funding applications because I write grant applications for charities. Yet in private sector practice, do customers go to an organisation and say, how diverse is your board and leadership team? We don't. So it's about leadership. I think it starts with leadership. And there are organisations that are doing a lot more around this. So certainly the bigger ones like Google, they've just brought in a policy where they want to recruit 50-50, a ratio of 50-50 women to men in the lower posts, as it's called, they called them. So because their view is that people that are recruited into the company, into all those different roles, are going to be the leaders of the future because they've got their promotional practices internally. So they're approaching it that way in terms of everybody that they recruit, it's a 50-50 ratio between women and men. That's as far as they've gone now. Culture, having an open culture to enable people to explore ideas, like I said, be honest about where they're from, what they're seeing, what the background is, and being able to have that sort of mix and providing a platform for that mix of sharing ideas and innovating. It's diversity to bind and not divide. Marketing, that's ensuring that an organisation that has a diverse workforce is more representative of their customers, is more representative of society. Therefore, this can translate to marketing. So ensuring that segmentation's there, the marketing message is relevant to customers and diverse, promotional activity, etc., etc. this is something that some organisations do and some don't, but you know, one of the ways to achieve greater diversity in business is to set targets. And so to say, like Google has said, 50-50, this is where we're going to go by this time, and back this up with continuous evaluation and monitoring to see where things are going. I can't see how I'm doing for time. Can anybody give me an indication? Okay, thank you. And then finally, just to look at good models of best practice, I've mentioned social enterprises and charities quite a few times. They do lead the way on this, I think. They do some social enterprises, in fact, quite a few, their reason for being is to involve a diverse range of people, that they will pick people up that are actually struggling to get a job or are facing multiple barriers and give them a chance and give them volunteering opportunities and a job and ways to progress through that organisation. That's a big thing that they do. So there's so many fantastic examples in our country and beyond of organisations that have achieved great diversity in their organisations, and as a result are just absolutely so innovative and creative and constantly evolving and thriving because of the team that they've got. It's the biggest resource any organisation has. So in terms of the benefits for harnessing diversity, I've just talked a little bit about that, and I found something here that is from, it's a paper from Hunt, Layton and Prince. Oops, I've just jumped a little bit there. And what they're saying, that diversity's dividend, it's called. So this was a survey taken of the top quartile of companies. And what they've said is that 15% of gender diverse companies are more likely to outperform the others. And 35% of ethnically diverse companies are more likely to outperform the other ones. So there is a paper there. I can put the link onto this presentation that goes into a lot more detail about the methodology of the research and how they got there. But I think that's proof in itself. And then other business benefits of harnessing a diverse workforce is, like I said just before, in terms of the marketing, it's representative of society, therefore more genuine connection to customers. It just makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense to have different age groups, people from different geographical backgrounds and to bring those experiences to the table, which leads to problem solving. People from different backgrounds and different walks of life will have a different view of life and experience. So problems can be solved with more creativity and innovation. Businesses can't innovate and grow if everybody thinks the same, and I think that's true. It could help an organisation to attract and retain talent and give them a great reputation as an employer, because they do celebrate and harness the benefits of diversity, inclusion and equity. So to finish off, my question to the audience is, what will you do next? Think about how inclusive your organisation is, how diverse it is, really, how in terms of the senior leadership and practices. And we can all do our bit. Every single one of us has the power to do our bit. So if you just want to think about a takeaway from today is, what will you do next? Thank you very much. Over to Georgia.
Thanks, Jo, that's perfect. I mean, if everyone wants to comment in that section, what people have thought, what you think that you will be doing next. Evie's got her hand up. I'm not sure if that was just up from earlier on when we were all, I know she's put it down now, but if anyone does have any comments on that, please do add that to the chat function. We already have Sarah, who's the project coordinator at We Can from Leeds Beckett. She's added a link there about women in the workplace getting more training, which is a really, really good link. Thanks for that, Sarah, to add that on there. I mean, you're definitely right. You know, I obviously run a marketing agency, and you know, diversity is conducive to creativity. It really is. You know, having everyone who's just got the same experience with the same background all in one room, it's just everything that comes out is just going to be exactly the same. And not only that, it's not going to resonate with a variety of different audiences. So you need different people in the room, don't you, to really create things that are going to be relevant to different people. I did want to ask though, Joe, tell me what you mean by equity as opposed to equality. Are they different things?
It's about equality.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I think equality is having the same treatment, whereas equity, I understand it as providing a platform for. Sue, you picked up on it earlier. What would you say it is? I'm not doing too well there, am I?
You're still on mute.
I thought you were doing great. I think this might not be quite what you meant, Joe, but when we think about investment and capital in businesses, we talk about equity, we talk about the resource and the assets that people have got. And equality is a lovely word, and it's going to, oh, yes, well, everybody needs to be equal, and we'll line everybody up and they'll give them a box to stand on if necessary. But equity to me is a more active word about making use of the resource and the assets those people bring. And I don't know whether that's what you meant, Joe, but that's what I took it as.
I think it's about putting it, it's more real, isn't it? To me, it's about providing the platform rather than it just being, we've got an equal opportunities policy
Right.
covered.
Okay, great. Sorry, it's just something that I hadn't come across before, so I really want to pick that up for in case anyone else didn't quite understand what was meant by those two different terms. So I really appreciate that. So any questions, any comments, please add them. We've got a great conversation happening already. So anything else anyone wants to add, please do. Asim, you're next. I'll hand over to you. Please give us an introduction to who you are and what you're going to be talking about.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here. I will just bring on my my slides, and there they are. So Black Lives Matter, a horrible situation made worse by a horrible president who made it even worse than it could possibly be. But in some ways, really started a movement that needed to happen, and it was long overdue. So George Floyd being murdered 9 minutes in front of cameras, having his life stolen. What an horrible situation, what an awful thing to happen. But it brought to modern society the need for real, honest conversations about the racial divide. Now, I've spoken to people about Black Lives Matter, and they kind of, they struggle with it because they say, you know, all lives matter. And it's absolutely right, all lives matter. And the Black Lives movement, the desire, the demand, the need for racial equality is about saying, Black lives matter as much as anybody else. That's all it is. It's about saying we matter, they matter as much as anybody else. And I kind of say we, because in my early years, the term Black was anybody non-Caucasian. And having grown up with, my parents came into the country in the 1960s with lots of people from the Caribbean islands. We grew up together, we played together with the kids, you know, and we were all in the same big melting pot. So my conversation is about the need for racial diversity and equality. And I really like what Joe was talking about. You know, there is diversity around, there's lots of it, definitely. You see lots of, you know, color, shapes, sizes, orientations of people around, but not everybody gets invited to the party to have a dance. And in my own case, I think some of the most interesting things I've been invited to were because somebody had a connection with somebody of ethnic origin themselves, or had an experience of ethnicity. So yeah, you know, how many Caucasian weddings have I been invited to? One. And that was because my friend, who's a Muslim, married somebody from Wales. but how many people? I've lived here all my life, but I've never been invited to a wedding of a white person. This is really strange. And I go to lots of Asian weddings, and we regularly see lots of white people there. So you know, I think, Joe, that's going to stick with me forever. And I call it out. I call out perceived racial divides and anxieties. I call them out because I can't be bothered to waste my time with people who behave in such ways as they do. So my conversation is about the meritocracy myth. You know, that everybody's treated equally, everybody's treated the same. We're all equal on this planet, and that's fantastic. You know, but the truth is we're not all treated the same. A meritocracy isn't quite what it is, and that's saying, you know, we want everybody to apply to this job. We want everybody to be given a chance for this tender. We want everybody to have an equal space on this stage. But the truth is, you know, when you put when you put a group of people together on a platform, you know, that platform means different things to different people. For some people, it's just another platform. You know, their dad or their mom has been on many platforms. You know, they come from a very well-educated background, and therefore they've been supported to be ready for that moment to get on stage, and they've done lots of them. For other people's, it's a real breakthrough moment because they've never been invited to be on a stage in an event, in a forum, in a community, in a job, because they never had a background in their community. So whereas, you know, if you take entrepreneurs, for example, there is a lot of success in the Asian community in entrepreneurship. There's a huge amount of success. We are generally very entrepreneurial, and the reason we're entrepreneurial is because we are no longer bothered by other people's imitations. We just think, forget that, Jack. I'm going to go off and do my own thing, and I'm just going to whiz through it. And I've met a lot of property millionaires, and the reason they go into property is because they don't need to worry about a tender. They don't need to worry about somebody saying yes or no. They don't need a network. They can just buy and do up and rent, and they can buy more and do up and rent. But that doesn't happen in the Black community, because the Black community does not have the diverse, it doesn't have the spaces, the forums, the leaders that share experiences. So I'm representative of the Black Pounds Project. I'm an advisory board member, and this was really set up in response to the Black Lives Movement, and you know, the call for equity, the need for equity, and the fact that, you know, this needs to happen from the Black community. So I am personally an inventor. I have a couple of patents, and I'm commercializing those. And I work with lots of other entrepreneurs. I'm a coach. I occasionally get asked to speak about my interesting route forward, and I talk about the reality of entrepreneurship. I also have a podcast, and I spoke passionately about the Black Lives Movement. So if you care to go to iTunes or Google Podcast and type in the Entrepreneurs Trust, you'll find my podcast, me ranting about the need for equality. And the Black Lives Movement and George Floyd really got to me, and it really connected with who I am. And I was, when CJ, the founder of the Black Lives, the Black Pounds Project, put up this thing that he wanted to put together, I think I was the first one to volunteer as a mentor, now on the board. And it is a community interest company. It is a business support organization for young Black entrepreneurs. And you can see I'm dyslexic there because there's a typo in there as well. So yeah, I'm neurodiverse. I'm colourful character, indeed. And we are doing this because it's not there. you know, in many specific cultural communities, there is good pedigree, there is good networks, there's leaders, there's figureheads. It doesn't exist in the Black community, and we need to have that. So our mission is there to build programs that support younger people on their journey, and we want to equip them with the tools that can actually grow and sustain. And some of that is not difficult stuff. It's just about saying, well, why do you think that way? Why do you believe that you don't have something of value? And it's often about self-belief and self-value, and actually taking the leap and taking the risk. Looking at it from this side of the table as an ethnic minority, not a Black entrepreneur, but an Asian entrepreneur who've known many Black entrepreneurs, but not many very successful ones, not many that have actually, made it past 10, 15 million, and very few that are large-scale employers or are featured in journals and the business press. That just doesn't bloody happen because there's so few of them. And they've been in this country for generations. So why is that? And I think we need to do better at recognizing that meritocracy isn't the answer. And this issue is true also for children of working class white children as well. I mean, working class white children, it was in the news recently, are suffering. They are not getting the opportunities. They're not thriving. They're not growing. They're not, progressing. And why is that? It's very similar to the issues that we have in the Black community. There's a lack of motivation and ambition and figureheads and networks to reach these hard to access communities. And I think we have to spend more time working with those hard to reach communities, because you know what? The average motivated business person will find the money. I mean, I'm pretty successful at finding bits of cash. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. But we need to do more, and we need to do more by inviting people to dance. And Joe, forever and ever, you will remain with me with those words. So I thank you for that. And meritocracy doesn't cut it. It just doesn't do it. It's really about bringing people out, spotting them for their passion, their motivation, their capability, but forget the experience. They just don't get the experience. I want to be on the board of a PLC, or a large business. But when I look at the job specification, there's no freaking chance I'm going to get that opportunity. It's just not going to happen, because I don't have that years of experience to lead me there. I am on the board of a school. I've been on the board of government quangos, and I've done loads of different things. But I have been able to apply? No bloody chance. It's not going to happen. So what do? I tell you what I do. I bring my own accelerator, a Silicon Valley accelerator with some friends, to the Midlands. So I create my own platform, and I do it on my own. And I am a non-exec director of a couple of companies in Europe. And I am a coach to growing businesses. So now I don't care if I get invited or not to be on the board of a PLC. I'll grow my own, okay? And there's housing corporations, there's PLCs that talk about diversity. And what do? They employ their friends, their mates, people they work with, and they get employed by their friends and mates. You can have it, and then they bring on one person of color and then say that, we are inclusive, we have diversity. You want to have that, you want to play that kind of game, go ahead. Most people can see through it. And the really talented people that are neurodiverse, that are ethnically diverse, that are female, entrepreneurs with passion, they're going to just do their own bloody thing. I mean, we got Georgia here. I mean, Georgia's running her own business. She's flying. She's doing fantastic things. I'm on a stage with these wonderful women who are doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing because the world is not letting them do things with them in the way that a man would, a white middle-class man would. And these people are progressing, and hopefully they'll take other people with them and they'll progress together. I mean, Margaret Thatcher, a leader, did she do much for equality and diversity? Probably not, but just getting there was a thing enough. But you know what? I think entrepreneurs now that come from minority backgrounds, they're pulling other people along with them. I certainly do. I don't care about experience when I hire. I care about passion and motivation. And that's what I'm interested in. I've hired 170 people in my own companies. So, you know, this problem that we're trying to solve is a problem that is in many communities. So we're creating an ecosystem to help Black entrepreneurs. And we bring Black entrepreneurs together who can share their thoughts and be supportive to each other. The way that, you know, I mean, I've just graduated from a course at Cambridge University. The way that we have been supportive to each other and having access to peers and mentors that actually are going to do everything necessary to open doors to help them. I will go above and beyond nodding their heads, because if you ever find a coach that nods their heads, leave the room. You know, that's not the kind of coach you want. You want a coach that is years ahead of you and is passionate and empathetic. And that's what we bring together. So we're really interested in collaborating with other organizations that want to reach hard to reach communities. We're interested in partnership with those enterprise services. And we are there to help reduce those barriers and jump over those barriers. So that's the kind of thing that we want to do. And so I don't want to talk about the other thing that I do is I run the Kickstart Gateway, and I help entrepreneurs access this funding to hire young people. So far, I've been successful in gaining grants for 350 young people, and I'm thankful, I'm honored that a lot of those grants are for companies of diversity, and they tell me this is the first time they've heard about it. They haven't been reached by organizations to tell them about it. You know, this is a national government scheme, and it really shows to me that the networks are not working. They're not reaching people that could really benefit from funding, from access to resources. So, I mean, I thought, I only heard about it in national news, but the mechanisms to apply for these things are not readily available. So that's my QR code. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do so. I'm looking forward to the questions. And if you want to listen to my podcast about my perspective on the Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Movement, please do so. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thanks, Asim. I really appreciate your time and your inspiration and your candor there as well. I felt like that was really quite heartfelt and personal. So I appreciate you sharing that part of yourself. It's not always easy to, especially in a room full of strangers that you've literally just spoken to 15 minutes beforehand, to actually share a very intimate aspect of your outlook. So I really appreciate that you've shared that today. I think that you're completely right about the meritocracy, that ladder. It's a broken system because not everyone starts at the same rung for a start. Mm-hmm. And also the element of unconscious bias within any sort of corporate scene is it's still rife, and I think that you're right, people of any so-called disadvantaged backgrounds, the very best way for them to succeed is go, actually, I don't even want to be on your ladder, I'm going to make my own, and just completely circumvent a system that's not built for themselves. You know, that's what I've done, and that's what a lot of people that I know have done, and they've gone, actually, I don't even want your system, I'm just going to do something myself. And there's so many people like yourself and like everyone in this room and everyone that's been on Bounce Back Week in general who are there to support you by just being that brave and taking that step. And you always get, you know, they always say that, what is it? So, favours the brave.
Luck favours the brave.
Yeah, that's for true. That's for sure. And I just wanted to say, you know, I go in. Well, I used to go into schools quite often to speak to children, the next generation of people coming up, and, you know, try to be that inspirational person. And I thought, okay, fine, I'm going to go into schools. They're going to ask me to speak to all the young girls and about being the business tutor and all that kind of stuff. And I got a school from Bradford, said, oh, inner city Bradford, you know, really sort of deprived area. And they said, okay, we need you to come in and speak to, there's a segment of society that we believe are the least likely to succeed. And it's this group of children that we're going to bring in and speak to you. And I'm like, okay, great. Opportunity to really get to speak to, you know, children of immigrants, a real, you know, melting pot of different people, loads of mixed race, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, oh, actually, no, it's entirely white working class boys. They're like, because actually, you know, the Asian kids don't need your help because they've got uncles, they've got aunties, they've got mums and dads running their own businesses. They don't need you to come and tell them about it. The young girls, actually, they've got a head on their shoulders and they don't need it. It's actually the white working class boys who actually need your help. And I was like, oh, that's completely opposite.
So true.
What I thought.
I'm sure you bowled them over though, Georgia.
Well, it was difficult for me to think, what do I have in common with a bunch of white working class 14-year-old boys? But it was the working class thing that I was just like, you know, you come from absolutely nothing and you can go anywhere. So I had to try and find some sort of link to show them. They were really interested that I had worked at Nando's. And that you can come from working at Nando's to be your own boss. So they were really interested in that. I think that somehow resonated, which was great. And also I think the point that you made about people having that token woman, that token person of colour. Okay, I'm going to hire all my boys from school or from uni and we're going to make this great company and we'll all look, act and sound and think the same. Great. But we need to have a woman in there and we'll have a person of colour, maybe a person of colour that is also a woman. Great, ticking all the boxes there. You're not doing it because you have to. You shouldn't be doing these things because it's a tick box exercise. You are going to benefit from that. Your company is absolutely going to benefit from bringing these people in. Don't look at it as something that you're being made to do. And the people who do have that mindset are the ones that are not going to benefit from actually bringing in a completely diverse workforce. And you should feel sorry for them more than anything. It's like, fine, go ahead and do that, but my business is going to outdo yours anytime. And Joe had the numbers to prove it. So anyway, that again, not going to go on my own rant here either, but really appreciate your time and your enthusiasm. And finally, we're going to go on to you, Jude. If you want to give us an intro to who you are and what you're going to share with us.
Hi. Yeah, sure. I'm just conscious of the dog. The dog's just all of a sudden started making lots of noises, and she was fine up until now. I think she knew that I was talking, so yeah, she started to be a bit noisy now. Right, so I'm Jude Chan. I'm the founder of a social enterprise called My Network for Women, based in Doncaster, and I am one of the directors of our social enterprise, and yeah, we've so. Shall I just go straight into the slide? Sorry, I'm a bit distracted.
Okay, go for it. Mind, we've all got a dog in the background at some point.
Right. Okay, so can you see that? Okay. So thanks, Joe, earlier for giving a comprehensive guide to you know, the definitions and, you know, all the very important words that brings us to today's event. So we are a social enterprise, and you know, some of the facts about social entrepreneurs is that there are more women compared to men that are getting involved in socially orientated startups. Women are more likely than men to think socially and ethically, and consider the environmental issues in business to be important. And it's regarded as a development of a new business culture, where profit isn't the driving force of a business. It's not the main objective, although we still need to make a profit, we still need to run as a business. It's more sort of socially driven by our, you know, what we set out, what we want to try and achieve in our society, our local areas. So as a social enterprise, we want to empower women in business, making networking more accessible, more inclusive, and effective through learning and support. So you know, networking for me, kind of it was quite new to me, only in the past 7 to 8 years that I realized what networking was actually, you know, what is networking, you know. My experience of business started from a very young age. You know, my family, my parents were immigrants, being a second generation born in the UK. All my family, most of my family are here in the UK, are, you know, immigrants as well, you know, and they have businesses, you know, ethnic businesses that they all embraced, and living in that, growing up in that environment, I think gave me that entrepreneurial spirit. My parents had a number of businesses, you know, considering all the barriers that they have to face, from language to skills. You know, my dad he couldn't speak a word of English when he came to the UK in the 70s. And so he attempted lots of different businesses. We all helped out as young children as well, you know, and it was a difficult, hard-working time. And they always had that drive to succeed and that determination to overcome challenges, whatever they were in life, and to bring up 4 children. I can't imagine how difficult it would have been, but, you know, it was difficult, but it was, businesses were, you know, it was a way to survive. You know, they made a living out of it. You know, when we set up this network for women, I and a small group of us learned very quickly that, you know, this supportive environment was needed. You know, a lot of the women that came to us and who we got to know felt that there was no networks out there that was really for them. People felt that it was very much sales driven, very competitive, very high pressured environments, and it wasn't for everyone. Certainly for me, growing up in a Chinese family, I never experienced networking, you know, for when, you know, I haven't, you know, experienced that networking world like some people do. So My Network for Women was set up from a need. We wanted to further the interests of groups, of our group, focus on the needs of the group, just because there wasn't anything out there that fit what fits our needs. So why is focusing on women in business from ethnic minorities important? Firstly, of course, I am a woman in business, and I am an ethnic minority. I've also chosen this subject in my MBA study. I'm currently in my final year of studying and working on my dissertation around this subject. So equality and diversity is important. And having spoken to a number of my participants in this research, a lot of the women have embraced, the ethnicity side of having a business, and they've done very, very well. But there are different other challenges as well. Looking at just on female entrepreneurship, only 1 in 3 are UK entrepreneurs is female. In 2017, only 5.6% of the UK women run their own businesses. I mean, this is a small number compared to Canada, for example, where it's 15%, and 11% in the US. So, there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of reasons probably why, the figure is not as high as it should be. 1/3 of the female population would start a business if it wasn't for the fear of failure. This is, we hear it a lot with our members of Women in Business. They feel that confidence is a major barrier in starting a business. A lot of the women have come together to share advice, share experiences, and given that support to one another. One of our members, she's just set up a CIC. She didn't have a business for a number of years, but she loved coming to their meetings. She loved to connect with all the women there to get a feel of what it would be like to have a business, and to, set out the groundwork for building a business when the time came that she would be ready for it. So there is the Doncaster Council reported the gender equality scheme. There are still there's still a clear gender pay gap, and men are still more than twice likely to start a business as women. They recognise the National Women's Enterprise Task Force. They say that 150,000 extra businesses would be created if women started businesses at the same rate as men. One of the biggest barriers in finance. 25% of ethnic minority-owned businesses report that there is a lack of self-confidence with finance. So it's clear that BAME women are not all the same. We shouldn't be categorised within the same entity. Each person has got its own challenges. They've got their own challenges, whether it's cultural issues, childcare issues. I think when I first started doing the social enterprise, my youngest son was just a year old, but I was sort of drawn to this voluntary sector. I don't know what it was, but it was just it was something that I couldn't say no to. And so I had to explore, how am I going to do this? And I was struggling a bit because I had a small child to think about first, and then, how do I set up this social enterprise, and how do I, where do I begin? Not coming from the voluntary sector. I was a finance manager before, and it was kind of a new area for me. But I was surrounded by the right people, very supportive network that that was helping community organisations develop projects, and it was a completely new world to me. And so, yeah, so we looked into sort of how I could sort of look into getting some help towards some childcare, and then setting up a group, a voluntary group, to help other people in our area. So other issues could be, you know, battling stereotypes. There are lack of role models, all contributing to the underrepresentation of ethnic women in business. I have been told that our group is, you know, ethnically diverse, and I think that's because we do have a diverse board and leaders within the team from the beginning, and that's probably why that is. We do need to have more conversations about diversity, much more beyond the gender subject. It's got to include everything. You know, we need to take some steps to engage with larger companies, but you know, firms do need to engage with the BME community. There are some huge companies already doing that. Sky's, there was an article last year, I think triggered by the Black Lives Movement, that they are, you know, looking to invest money towards boosting diversity within their company. So they're pledging to invest 10 million a year across its markets for the next 3 years to support anti-racism and improve diversity and inclusion, to increase BME representation in the business. They want to make a difference in communities impacted by racism, and use the Sky's platform and voice to highlight racial injustice. The pledge is to improve representation, to cover all levels and especially senior leadership. They want to target and place, measure, put things in place to measure progression of the underrepresented groups throughout the organisation. And they say that they'll also invest in education for its managers and leaders to ensure that they have a thorough understanding of diversity and inclusion issues, and are engaging in meaningful conversations with colleagues and teams. So, you know, the steps are, there are things changing slowly, but you know, it's all taken in steps, I suppose. For our social enterprise, for My Network for Women, we want to look at a new project to promote businesses to be more migrant friendly. How are we going to do this? Well, we start from ground level like we did with all our other projects. You know, look at setting up a focus group, identifying what the needs are and how we can establish relationships with specific communities. For example, the migrant communities. As an already established social enterprise, you know, we do have volunteers that help us to carry out some of these projects. We would look at also our members, get some ideas from them, and the people that we have links with, including the other local voluntary groups, institutions, the chamber. Change will only start with conversations and end with meaningful action. If anyone wants to get involved, please do get in touch. Yeah, so I just wanted to just, you know, mention a bit about what our own group, what we do, what we do on a, you know, monthly basis. We have events, we do share work, we utilize our membership, people with the skills and professional skills that they could share to others. Yeah, it's more for learning, a learning style networking way of, you know, meeting people and making friends. So some of the values that we've asked our members, really, we had a session on this subject, and this is some of the things that our members said about us that we wanted to acknowledge and put our, you know, put on our company values. So looking at past events that we've done, we usually have a guest that does a presentation. We've also done workshops, flower presentations, for example, by one of our members who has a flower business, sharing those skills. You know, it's a very supportive environment, and I think that's what, you know, that's what sort of keeps us going. You know, we like to sort of share those experiences, yeah, to support our personal development and encourage growth. So we've done, yeah, these are our networking events that we've done when before COVID at the venue. We've had to stop that, obviously cancel some events and go online, as did many networking companies did as well. International Women's Day, we've done, this was a really interactive Women's Day. We had a business clinic going on there, so anyone could come and speak to you know, a marketing professional, an accountant, a life coach, and a financial planner. And you know, it was really good to sort of interact with the members of the public and other business people as well. We had a workshop going on. We had a lot of our women have businesses that, you know, they wanted to share their products and services to the public. We had talks on, yeah, and demonstrations and food by our women in business as well. Mental health days, events, similar sort of thing. You know, we have an agenda of various workshops going on throughout the day. Yeah, very, you know, really sort of, it's really got that community feel to it. Baking for mental health, you know, and we had health and fitness for mental health, and you know, companies, local companies, community interest companies sharing available resources, available services in our local area. More recently, we created a platform by, you know, supporting businesses to promote their products and services in town centre. This worked really well. You know, it was a really good way for people to interact with the public and show off their yeah, products and services. Yeah, so we hope to continue the shopping day once things are back to normal, and also the networking events currently still online, but we want to review review it later on in the year to see how or when is a good time to go back to the face-to-face meetings. If anybody would like to join us at our next meeting, please do get in touch. If you want to be involved in any of the projects that we want to sort of plan to do in the next few months, yeah, please let me know. So thank you for the opportunity. And if you have any questions, please ask. Thanks, Georgia.
Appreciate that. Appreciate your time there. And we don't have that much time left for questions, and we did lose Jo as she had to go to another meeting. But I'm just going to go through real quick some of the questions that I had with particular relevance to diversity. The neurodiverse stuff, I think because it's still so new to people, Sue, I wondered if you could share with us if there are any other resources, because I know a client of ours and a good friend of mine, she has neurodiverse not disorder, she deals with that kind of those challenges herself, and she runs a software company. So what she is ensured is that there's something specific to people who are dyslexic that can't read certain colours on other colours, and she's hyper aware of that. So she's actually every single piece of software that she develops,
Yes.
The entirety of the colour scheme is geared towards anyone with any sort of neurodivergent issue or challenge, that she makes sure that everything that they build is perfectly legible for everyone who's potentially going to be reading it. I wonder if there are any other nuances that people may not know of, like that can quickly help people to cater for that.
Absolutely, and thanks so much for asking that question, Georgia. Yeah, your friend is spot on. And if you look at the whole Microsoft, I'm no advert for Microsoft, but if you look at the whole Microsoft 365 package and Office, the accessibility for people with a whole range of disabilities, conditions, whatever word you want to use, that's in that as standard is absolutely phenomenal, and it's come out of exactly the sort of work that your friend's been doing. So for instance, dyslexic people can get assistive technology that allows them to use something called Dragon or read-write software, and to change, thanks for that, Asim, I've sent you a request, change backgrounds. But if you are able to use in your business Microsoft 365, all of the standard apps on that you can alter to take account of exactly the sort of issue you're talking about. You can get it to read text to you, you can change the background, you can change the spacing, you can change the font so that it fits perfectly. A lot of, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people on the autistic spectrum, for example, you'll see accessibility software that gives them the choice of either having a vivid display or a muted one, because very bright colors can cause sensory overload. And of course, if you've got someone who's colorblind, which is more prevalent among men than women, bright displays with loads of color are neither use nor ornament. You need something that will actually operate well in a grayscale. Yeah. I've lost the point of your question in my enthusiasm. So have I answered what you wanted? Or?
So I was maybe just to more elaborate on that thought that I had been given from people that I know, and I know that like software developers, there's a lot of they have a lot of dark mode versus light, because just the way that a lot of people's minds work. So yeah, it was just more to elaborate on that. And don't worry, we don't think that you're selling Microsoft 365. But yeah, that's super interesting. I didn't know that about Microsoft. We use it.
And it's one of the points I'm trying to make to people, because I think there's still an assumption that putting things right for people must be expensive and hard. It's not. Most of it is really straightforward, because companies like Google and Microsoft and others have involved people with a range of disabilities or different conditions in their development processes, very much like Asim was talking about earlier. But you can check how accessible websites and things are. There are codes for that. You can just Google, how do I check how accessible my website is? Small measures, like if you've got someone who is neurodiverse, who gets distracted easily, let them wear noise cancelling headphones, let them sit in a corner of an office. And if they're working from home and they're thriving working from home, don't make them come back to the office for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Some people hate working at home. They need the structure and prefer the camaraderie of being in an office. But for many of us, it's been a game changer for a lot of neurodiverse people to have the option of working at home. And those of us who suffer from a lot of distraction, which is common for dyspraxia as well as a lot of the others, not having people around you that you can talk to or not talk to has been a game changer. I'm going to shut up because I'm rabbiting now.
No, that's fine. It's great to hear more about it. And I think maybe just one more question, I think, to everyone. I'll start with you, Asim. It's around as being a someone who's hiring, someone who is a business owner and you're recruiting. Obviously, one of the things that we've talked about throughout the entire week is making sure that we're giving back into the local community and making sure that we're allowing for economic bounce back locally. So recruiting, obviously, from the local areas is really important. But I wonder if there are any tips or ways that you can think for someone who's recruiting people in. How can we make sure that we're hiring in a more diverse way? It's a very big, broad question. I don't expect you to have a panaceic answer, but any tips for tomorrow to be like, okay,
Georgia, here's my answer. Stop asking for lots of experience. Stop asking for confidence. Stop asking for proven experience. I said that before. Stop asking for 5 GCSEs or a particular qualification. Look for capability, and that capability could be through education, through work experience, through their own hobbies, and look for passion and motivation and excitement, and that gets past race, economic disparities and difficulties, and forget the fact that you can't pronounce the name. Don't look at that bit. Just look at what's in their CV, and interview them. If they look like they're excited and motivated, I mean, it's easy to put a letter of application to show you passion. But if they look like they're interested and they, on paper, they could be of use to you, rather than they are perfect for the job, then interview them. I think recruiters, and if you're listening, you are lazy, completely lazy. They only recruit square pegs to square holes. And that's just not most of the human race. So do it your own way. I mean, look at your own stuff. If you were applying for a job, what hole would you fit into? It probably doesn't exist. So if they look like they're reasonable, interview them, and give them a chance. And inquire, are they able to learn? Can they transfer their skills into your sector? If you're not sure, give them a work trial and see how they fit in. Give them a challenge. Let them come in for a couple of days, or give them some work to do remotely for a couple of days. And you know what? Tell them it's like an opportunity for us both to get to know each other, rather than you coming to me for a job and a begging bowl that I have to give to you. It's not like that. People are happy where it's a meeting of minds. So they might desperately want a job, but it might not actually be yours. But they desperately want the job. But whereas applicants need to think, I need to find a home that I can be happy in, that kind of looks after my needs. I took on somebody and I said to him, what's your preferred working hours? And he's like shocked by that. I asked him, he said, look, I'm not a morning person. I'm more of an afternoon person. And I said, well, Byron, you do what you said you're going to do. You can work any hours you like. And he's wonderfully capable. And I don't bloody care what hours he works, as long as he does the job and he's available for me when I need to have a conversation with him. So, you know, this whole pandemic is requiring us to be flexible. So that would be my.
Definitely a big change for everyone. The working hours piece has definitely changed everyone.
Georgia, you are unhirable, aren't you? There's no job that you could apply for anymore. That's why you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, surpassed hireability. I'm going to have to stop us because we're about to go over, and I really need to just say thank you to obviously all of the speakers that we've had today, all of the speakers that we've had all week. We do still have the Bounce Back Week Awards that people can enter. We've got Community Spirit in Business Award, Entrepreneurial Excellence Award, and Pivot with Purpose Award. We're going to have the award ceremony in Wakefield for real at the end of next month. We'll invite all of our speakers to come and have a drink with us to say thank you. And if you know of any businesses that you think would be relevant to these awards, please send them our way, wakefieldbouncebackweek.co.uk. Please enter the awards there, because we really want to highlight the excellence in the region. So for Sue, Jude, and Asim and Joe, who had to leave us, thank you so much for your time today, for your enthusiasm and sharing a little piece of yourselves. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do, and you've done it for free, and you've taken your own time out of your day. So thank you so much for you guys, and for everyone who attended as well. The video will be available as part of our write-up on our blog, probably at some point early next week. So thanks again, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your Friday and a great weekend.
You too. Great to be part of it. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye.